Imagine being told that eating bugs is the next big thing, good for the planet, and something we should all embrace because other cultures have been doing it for centuries. This is the argument many pro-bug advocates push as they try to make insect consumption mainstream. They point to bug-eating traditions in Asia, Africa, and Latin America as proof that this practice is both normal and sustainable. But here's the catch. They're not telling the full story. This is multiculturalism in name only. It's a surface-level appreciation of a cultural practice, cherry-picking bug-eating traditions to justify their own agenda without truly understanding or respecting the deeper reasons why certain cultures eat insects. Let's unpack why this approach is both misleading and disrespectful. Pro-bug advocates often highlight the fact that many cultures historically eat bugs, claiming it's a global tradition that's eco-friendly and nutritious. However, they cherry-pick examples without considering the full cultural context. In many places, eating bugs isn't a preference but a necessity, a practical solution in environments where other protein sources are scarce. Bugs are consumed as a survival mechanism, not a culinary choice. Communities in these regions don't typically rely on insects as their main food source, but turn to them when other options are unavailable. By ignoring this reality, advocates reduce a complex cultural practice to a simplistic narrative, painting insect eating as universally desirable when it's often a last resort. The pro-bug movement also overlooks how deeply tied insect consumption is to environmental necessity or seasonal availability. For instance, in parts of Africa, bugs are eaten during specific seasons when other food supplies run low. In Southeast Asia, insects might be consumed during festivals or in times of scarcity, but aren't staples of daily diets. Advocates mistakenly assume that cultures eating bugs means they prefer bugs. But this isn't the case. In these societies, people often choose traditional proteins like fish, chicken, or beef when available. By failing to acknowledge the underlying reasons for these practices, pro-bug advocates oversimplify and misrepresent their cultural significance. Eating bugs isn't about preference or tradition. It's about making do with what's at hand, a reality that bug pushers ignore as they try to mainstream this idea globally. Adding to the problem, pro-bug advocates frame their movement as embracing multiculturalism, claiming they're introducing diverse food practices to a wider audience. But this isn't multiculturalism, it's cultural appropriation in disguise. Rather than engaging with the depth of these traditions and understanding the specific circumstances under which bugs are eaten, advocates co-opt these practices to push their own sustainability agenda. They're not interested in understanding the why behind these traditions. They're only interested in the fact that bugs are eaten somewhere, using this as justification for their movement. This strips away the cultural significance of bug eating in these societies, turning it into something it's not, a universally appealing food practice. It reduces a nuanced cultural tradition to a convenient prop for a trend. The truth is that insect consumption in many cultures is part of a larger, more complex food system. Bugs aren't meant to replace other proteins. They're meant to complement them. In regions where insects are eaten, people often rely on a variety of other food sources, like rice, vegetables, and meat. Bugs are not the centerpiece of the diet, but a supplement when other proteins are less available. By focusing solely on the bug-eating aspect, advocates ignore the nuances of how these food systems actually work. It's not as simple as saying, people in this culture eat bugs, so we should too. Bugs are part of a broader web of seasonal availability, economic necessity, and cultural preferences, factors that are entirely glossed over in the pro-bug narrative. True multiculturalism is about more than adopting a practice from another culture. It's about understanding the context and respecting the reasons behind that practice. In the case of insect consumption, pointing out that other cultures eat bugs without engaging with the why is a shallow form of multiculturalism that misses the point entirely. For example, in some cultures, bugs are eaten out of respect for nature, utilizing what's available to avoid waste. In others, insects are temporary food sources during periods of scarcity. If pro-bug advocates were genuinely interested in respecting these traditions, they would begin by understanding the economic, environmental, and social factors that influence why and when people eat insects. This deeper engagement is what true multiculturalism looks like, The push to normalize insect consumption as part of the global food system often comes with claims of multiculturalism, but in reality, it's a shallow attempt to justify a trend without fully engaging with the cultures from which these practices originate. Advocates need to move beyond surface-level appreciation and engage with the depth and complexity of these traditions. By doing so, they would realize that the reasons people eat bugs are far more nuanced than they portray, and that turning this into a global movement ignores the realities that make these traditions unique. If we're going to talk about eating bugs as a sustainable food source, let's at least do it with a full understanding of the cultural practices behind it. Otherwise, we're not promoting multiculturalism, we're reducing it to nothing more than a convenient soundbite.